Hey, Sam, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you going to do the introduction, um, or should I just go ahead and put you as an excuse me, put you as a interpreter?
Yeah, I will do the intro, so you can set me up as an interpreter after I do the intro. Itzel will be the second interpreter.
Okay, sounds good. I'll go ahead and move Itzel into the interpretation channel then.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. Itzel, do you need to ask a question? I see your hand is raised. Sorry, hang on. Let me get to the interpretation channel. Itzel, can you hear me? Sam, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm looking at the people tab and notice that Itzel is labeled as English interpreter. Just want to make sure.
Sorry, missed that. Yeah, we got Itzel as the interpreter, and then we'll move you in after the announcement.
Okay, so even though it says English interpreter, it will be the Spanish interpretation.
If I'm understanding you correctly, Sam, and sorry, we're listening to you over speakers and there's stuff going on in the room right now. But we should have both of you being set up as from English to Spanish. Does that answer your
Yep.
question?
Okay, that's fine. It's just on the tab, on the people tab, it says English for her. Then maybe it's just a description and not the real function.
Are you saying on your end you see it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it that same way too.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. We're ready to go then.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The time is 12:06 p.m. on June 18th, 2026. I'm calling to order the special meeting for City Council and interviewing and selecting a municipal court judge. Can I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Cosa,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawyer,
Here.
Mayor Woodruff,
Here.
Counselor Yasi, I'm sorry,
Here.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Present.
Excellent. Thank you. I guess we'll go ahead and kick off the interviews with Ms. Padilla. Would that be okay if you start us off?
Mayor, we do have the reading of the Indigenous language.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. I don't have my agenda. Thank you. Yeah. JK.
This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we're called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land that we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi-Sinam, Hopi, and Diné Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step towards inclusion and reconciliation.
Thank you. Is it okay if we? Okay, great.
We have the introduction of the translator as well.
Oh, great. Can I get an introduction of the translator, please?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Guzman with the CLC, and I'm here with my colleague Itzel, and we are here to provide language justice for today's meeting. If you are joining us through Teams, you can access interpretation through the More button. Hit the More button and then hit Interpretation and then choose your language, either English or Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Samuel Guzmán con la CLC y juntamente con mi colega Itzel estaremos proveyendo interpretación para esta tarde. Si se une con nosotros a través de Teams, por favor busque bajo el botón de More o Más y escoja ahí la opción de escoger interpretación y escoger el idioma de español. Muchas gracias and thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with Ms. Padilla, if you don't mind. And then, Mr. Perny, are you going to go back to the, excellent. Thanks so much. All right, council, we do have some questions. Do we just want to do round robin and kind of go down the list? Would that be okay with everybody?
Question before we get started.
Okay.
Okay, so when we start asking questions, we're going to ask the same question of each candidate. So like one candidate doesn't get a different question and the other candidate gets a separate question. Because that's how we do in the interviews. Everybody gets the same question. Is that correct?
I don't know the legalities of,
I think what we've typically done is like the first set of questions will all be the same, and then we can kind of open it up to like individual questions, because there's some questions based on like her experience and background versus the other candidate's experience and background that we might make similar questions, but it might be a little different.
Okay, that sounds good.
excellent. Well, welcome, Ms. Padilla.
Thank you.
Thanks for creating the time today. Would you like to go ahead and start, Councilor Koso?
Fine.
Oh, sure. Oh, yes. Sorry. Ms. Padilla, would you like to give a quick little introduction of yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. First, I do have extra resumes with me. Does anyone need one?
We got it electronically.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
well. I appreciate you all taking the time to interview me today. I have been a municipal court judge since 2021 at the city of Cortez, and I'm a backup judge here in Durango since 2024. I've also been a municipal court judge in Pagosa Springs as a backup judge and in the town of Dolores as the presiding judge. So in the last 5 years, I've really shifted some of my private practice to part-time municipal court judge work. I do still have a private practice where I represent children and families in child welfare cases. I do mostly appellate work, but throughout the 15 years that I've been an attorney, I've represented kids in the foster care system in Durango, Ignacio, all throughout La Plata County, Archuleta, Dolores, and Montezuma counties. So I have a lot of familiarity with our communities, the needs and the struggles that some people in our communities face. So I'm really honored to speak with you all today. I'm excited about this opportunity and to learn more about what you all are looking for in a municipal court judge to see if I'm a good fit or not. So I look forward to chatting with you.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Costa.
We'll start off with just what does being an active and engaged member of the municipal court bench mean to you?
So I think municipal courts are really interesting because they don't have the same oversight and requirements as state judicial. So it is much easier to make change in a municipal setting than it is within a state judicial setting. And what I mean by that is, as Judge Margeson was able to create an I forget, he calls it a wellness court, perhaps. We call it outreach court, but specialty courts. I can only imagine that's easier to do within a municipal court setting because you really need to speak with obviously city council, maybe your city manager, the city clerk, but you're not going against these established systems that are in place that apply to the whole state of Colorado. So you're able to really focus what your community needs. And so I think wellness courts are a huge part of that. And I think being an engaged member of the community and on the bench is knowing what your community needs and figuring out creative ways to address that. So a lot of what we see in municipal courts are obviously criminal violations, right? I have a degree in criminal justice. The cause of crime is really important to understand, right? So why are we seeing repeat shoplifting cases? Is it a poverty issue? Is it a mental health issue? Is it a substance use issue? Is it all three? And how do we address those to stop the repeat cases that we often see in municipal courts? So I think that really understanding what your community needs and being able to address that in a proactive way is really important for a municipal court judge.
And so you've got familiarity with our diversion court because you've been temporarily working for us as well, part-time working for us as well.
I'm sorry, the what court?
The diversion court, the
wellness court.
wellness court that Margeson's been running. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so Judge Margeson and I started our version of wellness court a little before Judge Margeson was here. And so he and I have had a lot of discussions about how to create it, what kind of funding sources are available. Ours are structured a little differently. And I'm talking about my work in the city of Cortez. So mine is modeled, or ours is modeled after the American Bar Association. the organization's extremely long, but it's basically their coalition on homelessness. And so I partnered with them to start our court. And then once Judge Margison took the bench, he realized, hey, this is a good idea. How did you do it? How do we make something like this work? And the Durango Wellness Court is different than the Cortez Wellness Court because the communities are different, the needs are different. And so I think Judge Margison's done a really good job of identifying what this community needs and responding to that. I'm also starting a teen court right now in Cortez. We're working on developing that is really exciting and allows youth in the community to essentially be judged by their peers, and evidence supports that that's actually more effective than an adult telling a young person what to do. And it also provides a lot of pro-social opportunities for youth to volunteer as a volunteer attorney or judge in the courtroom. And so I really think that there's a lot of space to specifically respond to issues in your community through municipal courts.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, next question. Specific to our position in Durango, how does your background and experience make you a strong candidate?
So my husband and I moved to Durango from Denver in 2012 with no clients and a hope that we could start a law firm, which we did, and it worked. We gave ourselves 2 years, and if it didn't work, we were going to go back to Denver. Now we get heart palpitations if we get in a busy city. So I do understand the community of Durango. We had an office here for a very long time. I continue to take some cases, not a lot, in La Plata County, but really my work as a guardian ad litem representing our youth that were involved in the foster care system has given me a lot of experience understanding kind of a different side of Durango and La Plata County, specifically some of the struggles that some of our community members are facing and some of the hurdles that our young people are facing. So I have a lot of hands-on experience literally being in people's homes in Durango, whether it's a foster parent stepping in to take care of a young person or whether it's a relative doing that or going to the parent's home and talking to them, perhaps if they're in the middle of their addiction or they're in a domestic violence situation and trying to identify local services and organizations to help them improve their situation so they can get their kids back. So I just feel like I have a really good grasp of some of the struggles in Durango and ways that we can help people in Durango by accessing local services, local agencies that already exist and plugging people in.
Great, thank you. How would you manage the caseload and prioritize cases?
How would I manage the caseload? And I'm sorry?
So how would you manage the caseload and prioritize cases?
Prioritize cases. Thank you. Well, first and foremost, priority of cases has to go to speedy trial, right? So if we have a case that we need to get a trial done, that's going to happen first and foremost, right? And so that's just the law and what we have to do. So that would be the very first issue. I think that it is really important for people to access resolution to municipal court cases as soon as they're able to. So I think it's really important that they have access to court-appointed counsel if they qualify. I think it's very important they have an opportunity to speak with the prosecutor before their case is called. So in my practice in Cortez, what I'll do is advise everyone in the courtroom and then say, is there anyone that does not wish to speak with the prosecutor before their case is called? And explain to them, you don't have to talk to the prosecutor, but if you want to maybe give evidence that you did have insurance and you're alleged to not have insurance, you might want to talk to the prosecutor and then the prosecutor might then dismiss the case. So typically I will leave the courtroom for a period of time, allow people the opportunity to speak with the prosecutor to see if they're able to resolve the case in a way that they wish. I feel like I manage my docket very efficiently. Since I took over in Cortez, we've seen a significant increase in cases. And a lot of that I think is just because COVID was happening at the beginning of when I took the bench, when I was appointed. So I think everything was a little slower back then. And, there were just fewer people out and about. There were fewer people, doing things they weren't supposed to be doing because they were at home. And so I have consistently managed more cases, I think, very effectively. Since I started that position, I've also added 2 additional dockets. So we have our outreach docket, and then we've also started a juvenile docket, and we're handling a lot of the low-level juvenile offenses that occur within the city, mostly possession of, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, some of those cases. I'm also familiar with kind of what the caseload looks like in Durango as a result of conversations with Judge Margison. I think employing a consistent schedule from what he did as far as how many hours a week he's working with the city, I think is reasonable. He was able to effectively adjudicate the cases and get through them. I also want to say that if someone comes to court and they need more time to talk to an attorney, they need more time to think about what to do, absolutely, I will give them that to a point, right? Some people aren't ready to make a decision the first time they come to court, and that's okay. We want people to be well informed, to understand their rights, and to be making a really solid decision. So we can also set them on the next docket if that's what needs to happen.
Great. Thank you.
Alrighty. What are your thoughts on the use of monetary conditions of bond?
So that is a challenging question. And so in municipal cases, really so let me back up. So if I issue a bench warrant, then there will be a monetary condition associated with the bond so that someone can bond out immediately. If they're not able to bond out immediately, we hold a bond hearing within 48 hours where they receive court-appointed counsel pursuant to statute if they're still in custody. It is incredibly rare for there to be monetary conditions placed on bond at that point because the state legislature is really telling us it's not appropriate. And so there's been significant bond reform at the state level to where rarely are there monetary conditions imposed for low-level criminal offenses, which is what we're seeing in municipal court, right? We have to remember that from my perspective, the crimes that we're seeing have a significant impact on our community on a day-to-day basis. If you're a small shop owner and you have a lot of shoplifting, that can be devastating. If you are trying to use the public parks and there are things happening that are not appropriate or not safe, that can be devastating. So they are important cases. And they are also the lowest level criminal offenses that we have, right? So we are not talking homicide. We are not doing domestic violence. We're not talking sex assaults. So I think we need to administer justice in a way that is appropriate, but is also consistent with the allegations in the case. So it's more common if I have someone on a bond hearing and the allegations include significant alcohol use. I may say a bond condition is you can't consume alcohol while you're on bond. Sometimes if I've had the defendant in my courtroom numerous times, I may say, hey, bond condition, you need to go get a substance abuse evaluation because we need to start talking about how we're going to stop this cycle of you getting picked up repeatedly because you're so intoxicated that you're causing problems in the community. So it's very, very rare to have a monetary bond. I can definitely say less than 5 times I have done that in the 5 years that I've been on the bench, and it's only certain allegations, certain charges that even allow you to do it. And it really, for a lot of our defendants, if they haven't already bonded out, they probably can't pay the monetary bond. And so it's really not a benefit to them or the community to hold them for a long period of time. If I did establish a monetary bond, I would get them back into court incredibly quickly, like the next docket, so that they're not sitting in jail.
Hello.
Hi.
Let me ask you, no, it's here. What are your thoughts on the use of bench warrants for defendants failing to appear for petty offenses?
So most of the cases we have in municipal court are petty offenses. Sometimes they are misdemeanor cases. And so it really depends on the specifics of what your ordinances say. And so if your ordinance, for example, I'll just use Cortez as an example, it says the court shall issue a bench warrant if someone fails to appear. So I don't have discretion under those circumstances. If Durango does not have the same provision, the first thing I will do is turn to the prosecutor and ask what they want, right? They're the ones prosecuting the case. And if they say, Judge, I don't want a bench warrant, I will rely heavily on that request. It's not my job to be the prosecutor, right? It's my job to look at both sides and make an informed decision that is appropriate under the circumstances. If I have someone that has a long criminal history, that knows how court works, that continuously fails to appear, I'm a lot more likely to issue a bench warrant. Like law enforcement are issuing tickets or summons because they believe a crime has occurred and the city attorney is prosecuting those cases. And so I think I have a duty to move those cases along. And by allowing people to just never come to court, we're not going to get anywhere. And so in all candor, I issue quite a few bench warrants for failure to appear. there would be more discretion on my end, for example, if it was someone without a criminal history, if it was perhaps someone that is charged with no proof of insurance, I will usually set it for a show cause hearing and have the court clerk send a letter saying, hey, if you miss the next hearing, you're really going to get a bench warrant. Like, we really mean it, right? We've already told you that once, that it says that on the summons, oftentimes. But I think we have to get people into court so that we can administer justice. And when people don't come, we're not able to resolve cases.
Thank you.
Ms. Padilla, I wanted to ask, what kind of hurdles do you see in expanding or improving the wellness/diversion court process? Is it financial limitations, do you feel, or is there other things that you feel would be ways that it could be improved?
That's a little bit of a difficult question because I have not covered the wellness docket for Judge Margeson. So I am not involved in the day-to-day.
Sure.
What are the issues we're having? Just in general, I think that although we have the lowest level offenses, in my opinion, we have some of the highest need defendants. And so we have people with really serious substance use issues that are just getting in trouble over and over again, that have experienced years, sometimes decades of being unhoused. And so those are hard things to shift and to change. And so some of it is just addressing the nature of the problem. And I think that community partnership is huge, right? You have to have strong agencies that are helping you get people into inpatient treatment, that are helping people access medication if they need that. Because the municipal court doesn't have those resources, and it's not designed to do that, right? From my perspective, I want to connect our high needs defendants with local agencies that are already providing these services.
Perhaps I just need to clarify for myself then. I was under the assumption that the wellness court that you had been talking about that you kind of established was very similar to what we're doing in Durango for the diversion court. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
it is
But you don't
similar.
have a lot of knowledge on the diversion court itself.
For example, in both, as I understand it, in both courts, there's a hub or an agency that's really administering a lot of the services. I couldn't tell you how that's working in Durango. I mean,
Got
I
it.
can tell you how that's working in Cortez and certain struggles we've had, compliance issues. A huge issue is people want to go to AA and NA, which is great, but that's inherently anonymous. So very difficult to prove to
Yeah.
a judge that you're going. So that's a big struggle we have. But no, I couldn't say in your wellness court, there is a problem with this specific agency and here's how I would fix it, because I'm just not involved on that level.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. How familiar are you with the City of Durango's laws, regulations, procedures? How do you plan to stay up to date and informed of the issues specific to our community? You live here, so
Laws, regulations, procedures.
yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was hearing you
Yes.
correctly. So I think for municipal courts, first we start at state level law, right? And right now there's a lot of legislation happening and Supreme Court decisions because some municipalities are engaging in certain types of administration of justice that the Supreme Court is maybe not agreeing with, or certain legislatures are not agreeing with. And so there's starting to be more legislation at what municipal courts can and cannot do. And again, this is because we're not part of state judicial. So when our state legislature makes changes to state judicial, like for example, what are the rules for bond if you have a misdemeanor case in county court, doesn't directly apply to us, right? Because we're not county court, we're municipal courts. And so now the laws are changing and kind of catching up to try to make those more consistent. From my perspective, I think best practices is to certainly follow as much as we possibly can what's happening in the state courts, because I think we're less likely to run into problems with, the ACLU or things along those lines, concerns about us overreaching our authority. So I think I'm keeping in line with what's happening at the state courts. And the way I do that is I'm a member of the Colorado Municipal Judges Association. I'm on the listserv. We get emails all the time about what's happening, what should be happening. I've been attending our legislative sessions. There's actually a lobbyist that works with CMJA so that I can be paying attention to what might pass the legislature and making sure that my court is already compliant with that. So for example, there was just a recent rule that you have to stream court, and we were already doing that. And so I'm monitoring to make sure that something doesn't get signed by the governor and we don't know what's going to happen, right? To try to make sure that we're preparing for what those changes might look like. As far as local city ordinances, my expectation would be if something changed as it related to the court, that likely the city attorney would tell me, or I would just know because I'm in the building and I hear what's going on. But I think that that would not be as big of a concern. And typically city ordinances aren't changed as frequently as what we're seeing with like Rule 21 petitions with the Colorado Supreme Court or the state legislature making changes to municipal courts. Really every session they're doing that.
All right. This position will require you to sometimes be available after regular business hours, including on the weekends, to preside over bond hearings. Is that a requirement you are able to fulfill? And then are there any times that you may not be available?
I think that is a loaded question. Absolutely. So first of all, this assumes we get to the point in Durango where we are having people in custody, right? Which we don't have right now. On warrants where they have to have 48-hour bond hearings. But let's say we get to that space. The biggest barrier we're going to have is that those defendants are entitled to court-appointed counsel. We need a defense attorney available on a Sunday, and we need a prosecutor available on a Sunday. And so those are my first questions. Do I have attorneys available? Because if I don't, we're not having court. That's just not possible. It's illegal. And so those would be some of the issues. And I think that we would really need to talk to city council to say, do you want to fund this? Do you all want there to be weekend court? Do we think we have capacity among our attorneys to cover those hearings? In a lot of municipalities, they do not do weekend court. I actually don't know of any that do. There might be some. I don't know of any. So under those circumstances, what happens is, let's say a defendant is arrested at 8 p.m. on a Friday, they just immediately get arrested or released at the 48-hour mark without a bond hearing, or they can pay their monetary bond. So there are two options, right? So if you get arrested for shoplifting, you can pay the $100 bond that's set on the bond schedule, or after 48 hours, you would be released. So I think it's a really big question to say, am I prepared to hold weekend court? I'm going to give you a maybe, but only if we have all of these other things in place. And I think we would really need to think about, does that make sense? What strain is that putting on our attorneys? And in all candor, it's hard to get defense attorneys in municipal court. It's not easy. These are not high profile, fun murder cases, right? It's like shoplifting. It's important, but it's hard to get attorneys during the week. And to then say, hey, you're going to be skiing on Saturday, time out, let's go do a bond hearing. I'm just not confident we're going to have the workforce for that. So as far as weekend bond hearings, I'm going to say maybe. As far as someone being in custody, so like if someone were to be arrested, the law says that the court clerk has to be notified within 4 hours. And so the way we handle that in Cortez is, once the court administrator is notified, she texts me and says, hey, we got this guy. What do you want to do? And then I'll make a decision to perhaps release that person early, or to say, no, we're going to hold them for 48 hours. And that's only if it's like on the weekend. So that's something that I'm already doing. Being able to communicate with the court administrator. That's another thing. Is the court administrator willing to work nights, weekends? We don't know this, or maybe you do, but I don't. And so there are a lot of moving parts that go into having a weekend court.
Great.
Alrighty, let's see. What experience do you have with specialty courts or alternative sentencing programs?
Sure. So I want to say it was 2023. We started our outreach court. And so what I was seeing from the bench was the same defendants over and over again. And I would say, okay, 3 days of jail, don't get any more trouble. And then they would get in more trouble, right? And then I would say, okay, but I really mean it this time. Or, okay, fine, now go do your 3 days and don't get in trouble again. And then next week they're in there again. And I'm like, this isn't working. Right? We're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not working. And so I started researching what other options are there. And so I think I Googled like homeless court or something. And the first homeless court was established in 1989 in San Diego. And the American Bar Association supports these programs. There was a panel of judges that were willing to talk to me, give me advice on how to set it up. Some members from the ABA in DC even volunteered to come to Cortez if we needed help with things. And this is all unfunded. So I have no funding for my outreach court. This is all tapping into community knowledge and greater, obviously, American Bar Association knowledge to figure out how can I implement this in my community. So I did some webinars, like some meetings with the ABA, and then had some phone calls with some of the judges, sort of like checking in, like, have you thought about this? I'm worried about this thing you're doing. And then we really reached out to our local agency partners that I a lot of times had a prior relationship with because of my work in child welfare. And I was like, this is what we want to do. I want to take defendants, and instead of just telling them 3 days jail, don't get in trouble again, say, why don't you go into outreach court? And outreach court is voluntary. You don't have to do it. It's basically a defendant saying, you know what, I think I do need some help. They identify what they want to work on. Sometimes I will suggest that they work on 2 things. You know, they may say, I only want to work on housing. And I may say, okay. And you've got a lot of alcohol cases. Like, what do you think about maybe thinking about alcohol too? Like, maybe those are connected, and they'll often be receptive to that. So then we connect them with our local hub, which is the Pinion Project in Cortez. And there are case managers there, and then they connect them with Access Health System, Porchlight, Indian Health Services, Street Medicine, whatever agencies they want to work with. A lot of our defendants don't always reside in Cortez. Sometimes they reside on the reservation, so they will tap into the resources in their local communities. And then the way our program works is I set them for graduation on the first day they're in the program, because I believe they're going to make it, and I believe they're going to get better. And then we have graduation with popcorn and water, and we give them a certificate and a round of applause. And I have seen such substantial changes in defendants, people that have been in my courtroom over and over again that won't make eye contact, that are sometimes under the influence, that are unkempt. When we get to graduation, not only is their hygiene often improved, they're making eye contact, they're smiling. You know, we all take a picture together where I tell them I'm proud of them, because I am. And I think for some of these defendants, there aren't a lot of people telling them that someone's proud of them. And so does outreach court fix everything? No, it doesn't. Do some of our people still struggle? Absolutely. Do some of our people come back to do it again? Yeah, absolutely. But it's this additional support and additional people trying to help, as opposed to a judge just saying, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. I mean, they can do jail. Treatment's way harder for most of our defendants. So I think it's been really successful. And it's been successful in small ways of just seeing changes in people, seeing people more willing to come to court. Just those small changes, I think, have been really positive. And then teen court, I don't know that I guess that's a specialty court. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it, so I can't give you a lot of information, but I did just go to Los Alamos, New Mexico, and observed a teen training and a teen court session there. That judge is incredibly helpful. She's giving me tons of documents, training materials, just really mentoring me to figure out how we could make this work in my community.
Well, I think you've answered this question in some ways, but perhaps you can elaborate if you feel
Sure.
that there's anything else you want to say. But if appointed, how would you assess whether existing specialty programs should be expanded, adjusted, or redesigned to better serve the community? What metrics or outcomes do you use to evaluate the success of a specialty court program?
I think the last question is really challenging, right? Because sometimes I think city council will say, what is your recidivism rate, right? How often are people coming back in? And to me, that's not the definition of success in this population. When we have people that are significantly struggling with mental health and substance use disorders, it is not realistic to say you are never going to pick up another trespass case as long as you live. Like it's just, in my experience, that's not going to happen, right? So I don't think that that's an appropriate metric. I think some of the appropriate metric is, are we seeing fewer repeat cases? Fewer, not zero, but fewer. Are we seeing positive change among those members of the community that are in outreach court? I think talking to law enforcement is also really beneficial to see if they're seeing any changes on the street, right? Are they having fewer contacts with certain people or in certain circumstances or certain locations? As far as determining whether the program is successful, if I were to take over, some of it is just seeing what's happening, right? Like sitting on the bench and seeing what kind of reports am I getting, or are people coming or not? And if they're not coming, why aren't they coming? And, do we have transportation barriers? Do we need to be partnering with local agencies that have case managers that can be really providing more life skills to people? So it's difficult to know. I guess I don't have enough information right now to say, I know that this is a problem. I think I would first just have to, experience the docket and the system and meet with those local partners to see what they are running into as barriers. I think open communication with your agency partners is critical and in general, I think if there are things I can do as a judge to make things flow better, I do that. It could be something like, you have outreach court at 3:00 and all of our therapists have to go pick their kids up from school. Okay, well, let's not do it at 3. Let's find a better time that works for everyone. Simple changes like that, I think, are really powerful and make everyone feel like more empowered and engaged in the process. Sure.
Do any counselors have any other questions? I got the last one for her. So,
I think the last one, but does she have any questions?
yeah, that's, I was just seeing if we had any other questions before we wrapped up with.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for council? Anything that you wanted to ask about? That
I do.
give you time? Sure.
So first, what are you all looking for in a municipal court judge?
It's going to be individual counselor opinions on this one.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor, sorry.
Yeah,
We
sure.
don't have
I
to-
think the success that we've had with Judge Margison and that transition from the previous judge to him has been phenomenal. Someone that can continue to keep up with and then expand on his specialty court program that he's brought to place, I think is phenomenal. Someone that can advocate for the needs of the court like he has been doing is super important, I think, as well. I think the way that Judge Margison has kind of exemplified, like understood the values of the community and the city and worked hand in hand really well with the police department and then our community partners to really I think elevate our municipal court has been phenomenal. And so someone that can bring that same kind of energy and, I was on council with the previous judge and then now Judge Margison, and the energy, the collaboration that he has is phenomenal. And so I would like to see that out of our new municipal judge. So, as one counselor.
Anybody else? Councilor Gonzalez?
Thank you. So thank you. It's so not really so different from what Councilor Lawyer said. I think the expansion of the specialty court program that I think you have mentioned and are familiar with, you called it the wellness court. And along those lines, especially as it relates to families, you mentioned teens and domestic violence prevention and those kind of programs, I have seen really transform individuals and keep people out of the cycle. So I also would like to continue to see that effort. I think that the previous judge did a lot with very little, and that's the limitation I think we have as a small communities. There's not as much funding available as I know I would like to see dedicated to our most vulnerable constituents. So then, we really rely on the judge to help us find where the gaps are. And on that note, I think the feedback to really say, this is what I need to make my courts function better and really serve the community. And then hopefully we can work that into the budget. That's always the constraint, is financial.
Councilor Yazzie?
Okay, well, thank you for coming to the interview, Beth. I'm sure you're aware, since you've worked with our judge, about how he started the program. We went from 2 judges to 1 judge, and he worked on getting funding and creating the options for specialty courts. So my major concern is just to follow through with that process, because I really think it makes a difference in our community on a very municipal level. So that's what I would like to encourage. So thank you.
Councilor Coso?
Yeah, I'd follow up. Alternative funding's important. I think the nonprofits and some of the providers and the connections, they tend to be siloed, and you need somebody to provide some gravity to pull them all together and make sure that they're working together. And I think the court can do that in very positive ways. I sat in on one and saw there's a camaraderie as much as what can you do to help this particular client. So I thought that's really valuable as well. The other piece is, in my experience, at least in the last year or so of being on council, we don't have a lot of interaction with the judge. And so how does the judge reach out to make sure that we're getting education connected to the work that's being done, and understand the needs of the court is important. It's on our responsibility too. We need to reach out from our side as well. But there is just a tendency for the court to operate and not necessarily, unless something's going wrong, right? We don't hear a lot. So I think that communication is going to be really important as well.
May I ask a follow-up question there? Just what contact is expected? Like what level of communication or contact would you expect from the judge to counsel?
There would be a contract for this position. And so there may be performance evaluation cadence that may be unique to the position. I don't know what that might end up. In general, we would have 2 times a year that are pretty dedicated to making sure that we're connecting with each other. And then after that, I think it's pretty much left to an individual counselor to reach out, or the judge to reach out to the counselors.
Okay.
And everybody agree with that?
Okay. Thank you.
The only thing that I would add to all of that is the fact that we've been so progressive and very visionary in terms of like how we consider the municipal court, to have somebody in that position that is going to continue to be looking at different options and different opportunities as they present themselves. So it would be my hope that we don't prop up this problem-solving court and make it great, but we're not looking at other opportunities as they come before us. And so having somebody that has the eyes open of where the community is and where do we want it to be and how do we get there.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions that you have for council?
What concern or concerns do you have in selecting a new municipal court judge?
Concern.
Right. Or essentially, what concerns do you, I mean, you've talked about the priorities, right? So specialty court is a huge priority. Are there any things that you are worried about as you're moving into a new judge other than what you've discussed?
Yeah, I mean, oh.
You sure? I didn't either.
Councilor Yazzie?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I don't have any concerns. I just want to have a judge that comes in and does the work that they think is suitable for the city of Durango. And I think we go from there because I believe that there's a pretty good framework which has been developed over the last couple of years that we can just go through. So that's my only concern. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Cusso.
Yeah, judge going through the motions, just processing cases and not necessarily thinking from an innovative perspective. I think that's going to be very important. We've certainly got a pattern with our unhoused community that we're moving them from one site to the next, giving them citations. They've got 20 citations. These are, you talked about this a little bit. It's ineffective, right? So how are we trying to modify what we're doing, not only within the court system, but also advice on how we can do better in the enforcement side of this is all connected, right? In many ways. And so I think that's a concern, is that somebody will just come in and default into just getting cases processed
Sure.
and not necessarily what's in the best interest of the clients.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to Councilor Coso, that it's always a fear to have someone new come in and then not understand like the values and priorities of the community and not, yeah, like just push cases through or do their checklist and like you're doing your job, right? As a judge, but it's not really in the best interest of our community. And so having that first, and I think that was a great, something that Judge Margerson did phenomenally. And so, yeah, you don't know, like we can, just any employee that you hire in any business, really, you can have an interview and you can hope for the best and you can look at their resume, but until you actually see them in work, it's kind of a gamble.
Sure. Yeah.
Councilor Gonzalez.
So yeah, along those same lines, I think turnover in an organization, especially as important as a municipal court judge, and oftentimes people's only interaction with the city is through the municipal court judges or the judge. And so I think having a consistent voice is really important as well. And it's unfortunate that's often the only time people communicate with the city. But it actually, you become the face of the city in that respect, in that regard. And so I think that part is really important as well, that the constituents and the clients feel that they are being fairly treated, and that we are a compassionate community who really does want the best for each individual.
One thing I would add is that kind of along those same lines, is that there's some longevity in the position. Like obviously you've been in town since 2012, but just to ensure that, this isn't, that's why we moved from 2 judges to 1 judge, to provide more consistency, to provide better services to members of our community. And so I guess it's not necessarily a concern maybe held by all of council, but just maybe from my perspective, that somebody who has been vested in the community since 2012, that we remain invested in. We're still investing. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 year plan of being here and then we're back to the drawing board, that we're in this for the quasi long haul, medium to long haul.
And if I'm allowed to respond to that, I think that is certainly something that is deep in my mind as I'm considering this position, applying for the position. So just in all candor, I don't anticipate applying for a district court position. I don't anticipate moving to a higher level of judge for a lot of reasons. For my family, for myself, it's not what I want. So I want to make that clear. I also want to be clear that if I am fortunate enough to be offered this position, my intention would be to maintain my position with the city of Cortez, which is 10 hours a week. And so I am not leaving that program that I've built. I'm not leaving the community that I've created. I absolutely know I can do both of these jobs. I have been self-employed for 15 years. There's no question in my mind that I can adequately serve both communities, but I want to be very clear up front that if you all feel like you need someone in the office 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, it's probably not going to work for me, because I am not willing to leave the what I've started essentially in Cortez. It's very, very important to me. So I've spoken with Judge Margison about the time constraints. I'm very familiar with where he was a judge in different places and what that looked like. I can certainly make a representation that I would be at the city as long as it takes in a week to get the things done that need to be done. My fatal flaw is that I've probably never worked only 40 hours a week. And so it will get done, but I am not going to leave the city of Cortez. So I just want to be really upfront with all of you about that. And if you feel like you need an 8 to 5 Monday to Friday person, I absolutely respect that. I'm sad that that's the position, but I just want to be really clear. I also, as I'm considering this position and we're talking about longevity and turnover, it would mean essentially me stepping away from my private practice completely, that I started from nothing. And so that's a big step, right? And it's a big leap of faith to the city of Durango to put my future in your hands in that way, which I'm excited to do. And I really know that I could do some amazing work here. I just want you all to know that I'm not coming into this in a space of like, I don't have another job or I don't have lots of clients that I'm already helping. It's really thinking about what is my skill set and how can I help the most people in the best way. And I think this presents a really interesting opportunity to do that. So I just want you to all kind of know where I'm coming from a little bit, that I would be essentially closing, not completely closing, but shutting down my side of our law firm.
And you're willing to do that?
I'm willing to do that. I'll be honest, there's a chance I might keep one appellate contract and just do one case a year or something, but it would be on the weekends. And it wouldn't interfere with this job.
Is your 10 hours at Cortez set days or times?
Absolutely. It's all day Monday. And then Wednesday and Friday, just if we have in custodies. And so not to get ahead of myself here, but what I had envisioned is that I would be at the city of Durango if I'm offered a position all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, take my lunch break on Wednesday to be a judge in Cortez remotely by WebEx perhaps, and then handle the other hour that I have to do in Cortez on Friday. So I think it can be structured in a way that I know I can meet the needs of the community and the court and staff with that amount of time, whether that means I do 10-hour days or whatever that looks like. But that is what I would hope to implement if we get there. There's a lot of ifs, but I want to be upfront about what my hopes and expectations are, because it is a big shift. But yes, I am willing to. Like hard to say. I am willing to stop practicing law and not take more cases in my private practice. And I'd also have to transition out of the cases I have. Like I'm still representing kids. I'm still representing families. I'd have to find other attorneys, which I can do. It happens. We can do that. But that is another consideration. If you all say, I need a judge on Monday, that's going to be tough. I'm going to need a minute to organize things.
Great. Any final questions?
I don't think I have any other questions. I appreciate you all and your patience and allowing me to ask you questions and sort of explain where I'm coming from. So I'm honored to have spoken with you all today. I really am excited about this opportunity if we get there, and I appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Ms. Padilla. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And do you
Should
want
I
me
go?
to
I can go grab them. Yeah.
And as I understand it, I'm supposed to stay. I'm supposed to stay here, right?
Well, you all step out when he's getting
No, I understand. I'm sorry. Let me be more clear. I should not leave this area because you all will go into a executive session. Okay.
And then we may come out and make a decision publicly.
Okay, great. Thank you all.
I'm doing well. How are you? Well, thank you for inviting me today.
Well, welcome, Mr. Peroni. We'll go ahead and open it up and allow you to some time to introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown of your experience and how that benefits the municipal court potentially.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Dave Perone. I've been a resident of La Plata County since 2014 when my wife and I moved here from California. Live in our same home that we bought in 2014 up in Durango Hills. Live there. I've got a 35-year-old daughter who lives out in California, and we live in our home with a rambunctious 2-year-old Bernie Doodle dog. So that's kind of personal life there. When I can start my journey to being in this seat started when I was 18 years old. Just a couple days after my 18th birthday, I went and joined the United States Marine Corps and went off and served 4 years active duty, 4 years reserve, and then used that experience to go to undergraduate school using the GI Bill. After my undergraduate major was in accounting, I went to work for one of the big four, big five accounting groups called Deloitte & Touche at the time, and did that for 3 years. Decided that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make more of a difference in people's lives, and I went to law school. Graduated Santa Clara Law School in 2002, and then kind of progressed from there. Worked as an associate attorney for a law firm for a couple of years, doing primarily criminal defense type work for that. But got a really good handle for that. At one point in time, I decided I wanted to hang my own shingle, and that's exactly what I did. So I was a small business owner with my law partner / cousin, and we practiced law for a little over a decade in the San Francisco Bay Area. People ask, well, what type of law did you practice? And I said, well, I kind of think about it now as a small time law firm in a big city. So it was pretty much whatever came through the door. We did criminal law, property law, some civil defense, civil on the plaintiff side, and pretty much whatever walked through the door, with the exception of family law. I don't have any family law experience, and that was by choice. In 2014, my wife and I purchased our house, like I said, up in Durango Hills, and my wife got a job working for the fort in the IT department of the fort. So She's a computer engineer and kind of transitioned from Silicon Valley to working in the IT department at the college. And I wanted to come here full time as well. And so for 2 years, I basically commuted from Durango to California over the course of 2 years, shutting down the practice and in the process of coming out here. 2016, I started working for the college, initially as an adjunct instructor teaching business law, business ethics classes, did that. And then in 2018, 2018 was started as the Equal Opportunity Coordinator for the college. And that position has progressed or evolved into its current position, which is the Director of Compliance and Community Standards, which is the position I currently hold now. I oversee in that position as Director of Compliance and Community Standards. I oversee equal opportunity. I oversee the Title IX process at the college, and I also oversee all student conduct. The student conduct portion, quite frankly, is one of my favorite parts of that position. Is meeting with the students, meeting with the other stake, not just the students who are accused of doing something wrong, but meeting with the other people who are affected by that and working out agreements and doing that. Whenever a student at the college is removed for conduct reasons, either from student housing or from the college itself, or both of those things, they go through my office and I meet with every single one of them. And I look at that as, I don't look at it as a sanctioning. I don't look at it as a punitive part to it. I look at it from a very educational and a very supportive part. So I see our department as supportive. I don't see it as punitive. I see it as supportive. And it's supportive not just of the student who is transitioning off campus or out of housing, but for the entire community. I see our department, my department, as helping for the student experience. That's what I want, is to improve that student experience, that quality of life for all the people on campus, with the understanding that that student who's being removed from campus is going to come back to our community at some point in the future. And so we have to make some sort of arrangement. How is that going to happen? What types of supports are you going to have so that the next time I see the student, and I tell the students all this time, I said, the next time I see you, I hope to see you at graduation. And that's one of the most rewarding things that I've had happen is, Mr. Perrone, thank you for, I had to take that break. That was the right thing for me. And I'm now, graduating. And I mean, that's just, to hear those words is exactly that. And so these are good, just like the people that are, appearing in front of this court, these are good people that, have made mistakes. And that's what I tell them. It's like, this doesn't have to define you. This can be something that you can learn from. And that, the ultimate goal is that I don't have to interact with them again, except for a graduation where I'm shaking their hand and we're taking pictures with family and so forth. So in that process, there's kids come in, these are 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. This is a very scary time when they come into my office. And so part of my job is to kind of explain the process, give them a forum to be heard, give them a forum to explain what happened. Let me ask, the questions like how can we help? How can we stop this from happening? And then I really enjoy it. That's what part I really enjoy. I really enjoy that part of my job then.
Great. Councilor Costa, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you. What does being an active and engaged member of the municipal court bench mean to you?
Oh, that's Great question. I think it's being available, it's being transparent, it's listening to the people who appear in front of the court and really giving them the time to hear why they are here. And again, very similar to my current role, is like, how can we fix this? And how can we make it so that you don't have to appear here again? And so there's that interaction both with the accused, but also with the greater community, the other stakeholders that are around. In my current role, I'm constantly interacting with our chief of police on campus. I'm interacting with the provost department. I'm interacting with the director of housing. And so it's not, I mean, it's a whole bundle of people who I'm interacting with and engaging with. It's not just the students that are accused, but it's the other stakeholders, the other people that are involved. Because really that's how I see my role now, and also how I would see a role as a municipal judge.
Specific to our position in Durango, how does your background and experience make you a strong candidate?
Sure. Well, I have a background of service, again, starting from when I was 18 years old, serving in the Marine Corps. When I was in law school, what I didn't mention is I volunteered quite a bit with our East San Jose Community Law Center and law school. I did street law programs, lawyers in the library. Those types of things are what I engaged with. And so my background in community service is how I can help. And at heart, I feel like I'm a community servant at heart. That's what I really feel like I am.
Thank you. How would you manage the caseload and prioritize cases?
Sure. Well, I think that's caseload management. When I was in private practice, I mean, you have to do that. I think what has to happen, because there's going to be some people who want to resolve things and want to tell their story and so forth, and there's other people who are just going to want to get through the process there. And so I think working with the court staff and trying to put together dockets that then also communicating from the bench of, this is our process. If you think you need more time, then let's talk to court staff to put you lower down on the docket. Giving people the ability to have that ability to talk, that ability to explain their side of the story, and really listening, I think it makes them better. It makes the whole process better. But basically, I'll be working with the court staff and also communicating that to the people to try to organize it in a way that allows people who want to just get through it at the top of the docket. Traffic, for example, probably traffic things are probably done first. And then, the things that are going to take longer, throw those at the docket and get through it.
Okay, well, here's my question. What are your thoughts on the use of monetary conditions of bond?
Monetary conditions of bond?
Yeah. And mind you, this is a municipality. It's not like a larger district court. So just our little bond.
Yeah, bond is a tool. I mean, that's what I see it as a potential, a bond for a tool. Obviously, there are problems with the ability for some people to pay the bond and some people not to pay the bond. And we have to look at that too. If it could be used as a tool to get people to court and to make sure that they're here in court. But I think there's other ways if there's other ways of doing it without bond, I'm open to that as well. I mean, I don't know. Is that hopefully that explains you. I wish I had a better answer for you than that.
No, that's a good question because this is a local municipal court.
Right. I mean, I think the goal of the court is to address violations of the municipal ordinance that affect people's quality of life. And so, and again, just like my position at the college is we're trying to not get people to get to court. We would love to have a court where people aren't violating the rules and aren't in front of the court. So whatever that takes to get the behavior to be a one-time and done type thing, whatever that is, that's the real goal. Or should be, in my mind, should be the goal of the judge is let's address it. Let's address what's going on, but then let's go ahead and, fix it, fix, and then forget, and then be a good member of the community moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Shirley Gonzalez. So my question for you is, what are your thoughts on the use of bench warrants for defendants failing to appear for petty offenses?
I'm not a fan. I mean, again, it's a tool. So we have to go to, we have to be able to get to court. We have to address those things. And so the issuance of a bench warrant is a tool. It's not necessarily wouldn't necessarily call it my first tool, right? So I think there's things that can be done with the court, meeting people where they're at to get that court interaction, to get them in front of court and to get them to be accountable for what it was. Is there a time when a bench warrant is appropriate? Yes. But I would argue that would be, it's not high on my priority. I think there's other ways of getting to people, other ways of hearing people, other ways of adjudicating cases without necessarily utilizing bench warrants. For example, there's a number of different ways of meeting people where they're at. Maybe holding court in the evenings or on a weekend, maybe holding court at, the library, maybe in having the court engage with providers, Access and Man Soup Kitchen to be able to get people, okay, you've got a court appearance, you've got this date, let's deal with it. These are the options for you to deal with it. So being creative about how that could happen. But at the same time, it's a tool, and sometimes it's going to be necessary, but it's not, personally, that's not, I'd only use that if necessary.
Thank you.
What really are you with City of Durango's laws regulations?
I read in preparation for this, when I applied for this position and when I got the interview, I read the municipal codes. I have not practiced in this court. I have not represented people in this court, but I did read the municipal code. Municipal code was very similar to other, codes and laws that I've been familiar with in other jurisdictions. There wasn't anything that was, strikingly, oh my goodness, like that's different. So was that, I wish I could say that I've practiced here in front of this, in this court, and I just haven't.
The position will require you to sometimes be available after regular business hours, including on the weekends to preside over bond hearings. Is that a requirement you are able to fulfill, or are there any times you may not be available?
No, I'm available all those times. I'm on call at the college on a regular basis. There's a rotational duty on call for emergencies and things like that. So I have those requirements at the college too.
Great. What experience do you have with specialty courts or alternative sentencing programs?
So that's so funny you ask. I've got my Title IX coordinator is going to be going to a restorative justice conference and at the SCJC this weekend. And when we've got some goals of restorative justice type programs that we're looking in place for the college. This country's got 2 million people incarcerated in this country. We've got, of that, about, a third of those are in municipal or in state municipal type systems. And the other, 2/3 are in, federal and state prisons. We have a lot of people incarcerated. The recidivism rate is very high. It disproportionately affects different groups of people. And so I think that restorative justice is, again, a tool. It's not appropriate in all places, but it is a tool that has to be it can be utilized. And if the situation is correct, we do restorative justice practices at the college. We've got goals to increase those restorative justice practices. Sometimes they're appropriate and sometimes they're not appropriate. And so, again, the municipal court is a little bit different animal in my mind than a state court. The people who are appearing are going to be members of our community. They're going to be back. They are going to be here. So how do we listen? How do we give them respect? How do we give them the due process? How do we educate? And part of it is education. There's an educational component to this. And, you want to be parental about the whole process. That's not the point. But the point is we want to improve the quality of everybody. And if restorative justice works, and that prevents people from coming back into the court, then that's a win. That's a win for our community. It's a win for everybody involved.
Great.
Alrighty. If appointed, how would you assess whether existing specialty programs should be expanded, adjusted, or redesigned? And what metrics would you use to evaluate the success of these programs?
Yeah. That's actually that's a really good question. And what I do right now, we have programs at the college. We put in programs. We try different things. It's a collaborative process with everybody at the college, and so it's communication with the people who are in the know. That's the court staff. That's the city attorney. That's the other stakeholders that are in the community. Find out what, talk to the county veteran service organizer, talk to Access, talk to MANA. What are the needs? What's working? What's not working? Having that communication, coming up with ideas, seeing what's working, what's not working. Oftentimes the community knows what is working and what's not working. But having that dialogue and then going out and then trying things and going and putting things forward. And so as far as like what programs would be increased, what programs would decrease, my question would be, let's talk about that. What's working? Is this work? Is what we're doing working? What are some other ideas so that we can improve our community? but getting that from the other stakeholders, not just, kind of, it's being kind of a sounding board for that. Right.
So I guess just the final request, do you have any questions about the council's expectations or priorities for the court?
Yeah, maybe it kind of dovetails into Councilor Yazzi's prior question, and that is like, what is like the what is the amount of change? Like, what do you feel as city council? What do you expect, and what type of change are you expecting, and what's your ability to accept change? And I say this, and the reason why I say this is now my current role, it's very common for someone in the college, the police chief, to call me, or me to call the police chief, or me to go into the provost's office, or me to go to the director of housing, or vice versa, and discuss what's working, what's not working, and then how we can change. And some organizations are able to change and willing to change and have a culture of change, and other organizations are very resistant to change. So what is the culture of change in the city of Durango's atmosphere?
I think I hit my name.
That's a lawyer.
I think we're very open to change and, new ideas and developing and having trust in our appointees. I mean, we didn't have a specialty court before Judge Margison. During his interview process, he brought up the idea of potentially maybe wanting to try. And we gave him the ability to not just try, but to thrive and succeed with the specialty court that he's done. And so I think if you come with an idea or a way to make things better, or a vision that you have, as long as it falls within our, ordinances and code, and I think for council, it has been typically in the past, like, what's best for our community? What does our community want to see? What do we value? What is safety? And, how do all these pieces mix together? And is what you're proposing or your ideas complementary and it's going to elevate us all? Or is it not? Is it conflicting? Part of the reason that we changed judges, there was a lot of reasons, time, we wanted more consistency, someone here more often than 2 part-time judges. But it was also that, there were some values that we were wanting to see push forward that the current that municipal judge at that time wasn't willing to bend on. And so it did conflict with the council direction and where we wanted to go, and supporting, our ordinances and safety in our community. So I think as long as it's in line with like the visions and support of the community, then we're all for creativity and, pushing the boundaries and ideas and all the things.
Councilor Koza.
Yeah, I don't think we're asking for a 180-degree turn or anything like that. We feel like the court's done very well at this point. We're looking for continuity in what's going on. That being said, we want to see progress and movement, hopefully some consistent metrics that are clear for us to see that the time and energy that's being invested is going somewhere, and improvement in the lives of the residents that you're working with. So I think that's the kind of the core things.
And what type of metrics is the council looking at?
Yeah, I don't think we've got particularly strong metrics. And it's a lot of anecdotal evidence of improvement in lives. And so I think that's got some difficulties around it as well. But, that when you're asking for change, just one counselor's opinion, some more consistency in regards to the metrics that we're looking at. And are there other metrics that we haven't been looking at that might be appropriate as well? So we're not necessarily doing, from my perspective, we don't necessarily have clear metrics that we're solid on right now.
Councilor Yazzie.
Sorry. My metrics exactly is we don't have concrete things. And one of the things that the specialty court that I've observed over the last couple of years is that there's flexibility, you know, to get the end product of trying to fulfill the needs of the people who come before this specialty court. So I think flexibility and working within the system, because there's some definite hardships being at the specialty court, but there's also a lot of ability in making people's lives more fruitful. So that's all I have to say.
I would only add that kind of following Councilor Koso, you know, we're not looking for a 180, you know, shift or a change, you know, being able to maintain the current existing infrastructure and integrity of our current court, but also having the wherewithal to look out at what other opportunities are and keeping a finger on the pulse of like, what is the community sensing? Where is council at? And be able to create programs or to create conversations, leverage public partners in whatever that forward thinking is, but being open to other programs that could potentially become or be made available, or a different, you know, vision of what does this problem solving court look like? What's the future of that? And then how do we make sure that we're maintaining our existing, you know, other places on the municipal court? So I would just say, just for me, it's not necessarily change. It's making sure we maintain what we have, but also how do we keep our mind open for other opportunities as they present themselves?
Sure.
What other questions do you have for us?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, great. So then should we, do I need to? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We may come back with a decision.
Okay.
So we'll have to announce the public. We may not, just depending on who knows what council is doing.
Sure.
And then, but you can also listen afar.
Okay.
Whatever you like.
I'd like to make thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I'd like to
thanks
make
so
a
much.
motion to convene an executive session to discuss selecting and making an offer for a full-time municipal judge and to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation and direct negotiators. Oops, sorry, I have to say this, I remember. As permitted, I paused too long, I apologize. As permitted by CRS 24-6-4024 E and F.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All right. Can I get a roll call, please? Oh, sorry. We actually were digitizing.
Oh,
Slowpoke.
The motion passes. All in favor: Dave Woodruff, Gilda Yazzie, Jessica Lawyer, Kip Koso, Shirley Gonzalez,
All right, the time is now 1:48 PM and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were Mark Morgan, Counselor Kip Koso, Counselor Lawyer, myself, Mayor Dave Woodruff, Counselor Gilda Yazzie, and Counselor Gonzalez. For the record, council met in the executive session to discuss selecting and making an offer for a full-time municipal judge and to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation and direct negotiators as permitted by CRS 24-6-402, 4E and F. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda on the item is discussion and direction to the city attorney to provide an offer of employment to a municipal judge candidate. First off, before we kind of get into this, I just want to say thank you to both candidates for taking the time today. I know it's not an easy thing to do this all in a very public manner. So thank you for also everything that you do for the community, whether it's in Cortez or at the fort. Your contributions to the community are very highly valued. And again, thank you for everything that you've done up until now, and appreciate your time taken with us today.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Beth Padilla as our new municipal judge and instruct the city attorney to conduct negotiations within the parameters we discussed in executive session.
Second?
So just you don't want to actually appoint today? Sorry. Yeah, so just direct me to do the negotiation with her.
Okay.
Because if it's not a successful negotiation, we don't want to have already appointed her.
Okay.
So
So I'm going to revise my motion and say we are going to instruct the city attorney to go through negotiations with Ms. Beth Padilla within the parameters as that we discussed in executive session.
that works.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Can I get a roll call, please?
The motion passes. All in favor: Dave Woodruff, Jessica Lawyer, Kip Koso, Shirley Gonzalez, Gilda Yazzie.
So I'll meet with Ms. Padilla, see if we can come to terms, and then those terms will be brought to you for approval, and then we'll have another meeting where you do the formal appointment and approval of the contract.
Great. This is adjourned. And again, thank you both for taking the time today.